Well, good morning. Everyone having a great morning so far? Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you for having me. I have a question for all of you. How many of you, when you hear the word change, you get that like warm, fuzzy feeling inside? Just love it, right? No, why? Why don't we like change? It's uncomfortable, it's scary. Why? What else? It's hard. We as human beings seek homeostasis, which means we love when things are predictable, we know exactly what to expect, it's a routine, it's a habit, it's a pattern, and we can do the same thing over and over because we know what the result's going to be. But how many of you realize now, more than probably any other time in history, change is all over the place? Imminent, yeah? Think about the way that we shop, the way that we communicate with one another, the speed at which we can translate information. It's crazy. Change is coming at us all the time. So when we look at change, and we look at even the leaders in our company, our management, when we can empower them to align with change, to become more flexible, to become more agile around the concept of change, all of a sudden we can break through barriers. We can get where we want to go as an organization. But we're in this pattern of resisting. And once we help them see that, that's where the magic happens. So we as human beings, we love patterns. 60% or more of what we do on a daily basis is a pattern. If you think about your diet, your exercise routine, or lack thereof, the way you interact with your spouse, your children, the way you interact with your coworkers, they're all patterns. Only 40% of what we do is an actual decision. How many of you have ever driven to work and you have absolutely no idea how you got there? Does that ever happen? And you're like, I like really don't remember getting here. Or if you think about tonight, when you go home and brush your teeth, just as you're getting ready to brush your teeth, switch hands. Talk about awkward. You're like, I don't even know how to do this. It's so strange. But we do things so habitually we don't even think about them, which is interesting because if we don't like the results that we have in one area of our life, it's not just about the result and changing the habit. It's not just about changing the habit, it's about changing the action, because the action is what creates the habit and the results. But we have to go one step further back, because it's also not just about the action, it's about the thoughts. Our thoughts influence our actions influence our habits, and our habits directly impact our results. Our decisions today are directly correlated to our destiny of tomorrow. So if we don't like those results, it's about changing, about doing something different. Now, we all know it's important to exercise, take care of our bodies, and we know that what we do helps prevent disease, like heart disease, could be high cholesterol, diabetes. We know that it's important to take care of our body. But we oftentimes fail to grow and develop this muscle. And if we don't, the same thing happens. Disease sets in. It's just labeled differently. It can be worry. It can be doubt. It can be fear. And when we don't develop this muscle and challenge it to grow, challenge it to think new thoughts, challenge it to do something differently, not here and there, but literally on a daily basis, push ourselves to grow and become better, then all of a sudden atrophy here sets in. And that's when we become fearful of change. Now I have to tell you, 10 years ago, back in December of 2008, I started a company called You and Improved. I have always been insanely passionate about personal development, success, achievement. Why is it that certain people see massive results and success in life? Not this success, but this success. Why is that? What do they do differently? What do they do? What do they think? Why is it that they get those different results? And I started a company to help empower people, individuals within their organizations, to shift the culture to create that atmosphere where leaders are empowered to do their best work, when they're empowered to work cohesively, to bring others along, to create the environment of inclusion. How do we do that? And it all starts with thinking different thoughts. In the classes we do, they're 2.5-day immersion classes and corporate trainings. I have a team of 4 other amazing trainers plus myself. We go in and we push hard, in a positive way, but we push hard so that we can absolutely elicit change right then and there. So it's not just a thought or a theory, but we're practicing leadership behavior in the classroom that they can then apply and it's sustainable. And I'll tell you, some of the things that I hear most often from tens of thousands now of executives and CEOs that we've worked with and their leadership teams is this change problem. What do we do to overcome it? Because our people are resistant to it, and we want to change that. We want to change how they look at change. And one of the key things that I share with them often is this idea of coming from a place of abundance. We hear it, but what does that really mean? Because we're oftentimes raised that in such a competitive culture as ours, we have to win at all costs. In order for me to win, I have to take from you. You lose, I win. But that's not the name of the game. When we start looking from a place of abundance where everyone truly can win, when we look at it as we love having competition, our competitors succeeding is a good thing because it raises the bar for us to become better. When we look at life as there's plenty of business out there, there's plenty of great salespeople, we just haven't met them yet. There's that perfect spouse or partner, I just haven't met them yet. When we come into life and business with that mentality, watch how things change. But it changes, it comes from a place of needing to look at life differently, coming from this idea and this place of abundance. The other thing that I always share is this idea of going through life as a shark versus a goldfish. How many of you ever had a pet goldfish growing up? A show of hands. Okay, quite a lot of you. So I did too. My brother and I had a pet goldfish, and we were extremely creative children. We named it Goldie, as you do. How many of you, when you had your goldfish, what does a goldfish do primarily? Swim and die, right? How many times did you replace that fish? So yeah, it swims, and it just stays in its little 10-cent bowl, right, and just swims in circles, and that's what a goldfish does. But you know, if you take that goldfish in its little bowl and took it to the ocean and took the goldfish out of the bowl and plopped it into the ocean, do you know what that goldfish does? It swims in its same little diameter, the same diameter of its bowl. How many of you know people in organizations, in their families, in some area of their life where that's what they do? It's their comfort zone. And it's so painful to leave our comfort zone. Why? It's like our fuzzy bedroom slippers, right? Little fuzzy bunny slippers. And we get so comfortable, really sometimes being uncomfortable. Oftentimes, that comfort zone isn't really all that comfortable, but it's what we know. It's what we've come to expect. It's good enough. And we settle for this idea of good enough instead of challenging to grow, to get to that place where we know we ultimately want to be because we are comfortable. But what does a shark do? So different, right? Shark is like, dun dun, I'm here, right? They own the ocean. They come at life completely differently. They take advantage of every opportunity. They have the confidence to use every ounce of opportunity and space that they have to experience everything. Completely different. When we come at life as a shark, with our shoulders back, our head held high, and we look at life in that perspective of, you know what, I'm going to say yes to that opportunity. Why not? The worst that can happen is what? I fail. And how many times have you gained something from a failure, perhaps even more than you did from a success? It's amazing. When we push ourselves to do something differently, to think something differently, and look at change in a different light, watch the magic that happens. And I'll tell you, I don't talk about this from a theory perspective. I've lived it. I've gone through some pretty crazy changes in my life. The most dramatic, in my opinion, happened in October of 2008. And in 2008, my life looked very, very different than it does today. I was happily married, had two little babies, two girls. They were 1 and 3 at the time. And my husband and I were building a couple of businesses. We were fortunate we were able to work from our homes, spend all day together. Our businesses we owned a commercial interior design firm with my dad, and we owned a health and wellness company. And again, we spent all day, every day together. We did date night every week. We have 2 healthy children, building our dream home. So things were good. And life is funny that way, yes? Because sometimes you don't know change is going to happen. And on October 15th of 2008, everything changed. I put my daughter, my oldest daughter, to bed for what seemed like the umpteenth time. I don't know if any of you have that child. That's my oldest. It was back to bed, back to bed. I put her to bed for the umpteenth time, came out into the kitchen, and my husband was on the couch on his laptop, as he often was, working, and his phone was plugged in the kitchen. So it made a little buzz or a beep that he had a voicemail or a text message. So I went to grab it for him and bring it to him. And as I grabbed it, I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I glanced at it, and as I glanced at the phone, it said, "I love you, baby. I can't wait to be with you." Yeah, that's what I said. And I remember consciously thinking to myself, just breathe, like in, out. I was so dumbfounded because there was no writing on the wall. There was no indication or clue of any of this. And I just thought, what is going on? Everything that I thought I knew, everything I thought my life was going to be like, everything I envisioned was just shattered, completely changed in the blink of an eye. So as I walked over and I handed this phone to him, and we exchanged a few words, and he stormed out and he took off to California. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is my new reality. I just became a single parent. We're gonna lose the 6-figure deposit on this home. I'm gonna lose my 2 businesses. There's no source of income. I'm gonna inherit half of the business debt, which was at least $40,000. How the heck am I gonna, what am I gonna do? My kids are babies, you know, they need their mom. How am I gonna do this? So I spent some time really digging deep and really thinking, you know, everything happens for a reason. And all of those tools and things that I'd learned from different mentors and thought leaders from years and years, just because it was a passion of mine, came flooding in. And I never knew the value of it until those moments. And each day I was thinking, what am I gonna do? What is this gonna look like? And you know, you have these little pairs of eyes looking up at you, and I remember my 3-year-old looking at me and saying, you know, where's daddy? And I'm like, hey, beats the heck out of me. I have no idea. And I remember thinking, what are we gonna do? But I remember making a conscious decision, because it's easy in those circumstances. When change presents itself that way, it's easy to say, you know what, I'm just gonna dig a hole and jump on in and play victim. And while that sounds good for a moment, the reality is you have these little pairs of eyes looking at you, and I decided it wasn't about being a victim, it was about this new title. I was gonna be a role model to these little girls, and I was gonna show them that they can be, do, and have whatever they want in this world. Because life is gonna throw stuff at them. Good, bad, ugly, it's gonna happen. So that was the decision I made. 2 months later, I started a company called You and Improve. And it has been my mission and passion to help empower people in their organizations, in their personal lives, to live their greatest, biggest, best life. We push hard because I know there's greatness within everybody. Now, I have these 2 little girls who now are not so little. My 13-year-old and my 11-year-old are my 13-year-old's eye level. And every single night since all of this happened, now over 10 years ago, I tuck them in to bed at night and say the same thing, because what I know is change is gonna come, but I need to be the anchor for them. And so every night when I tuck them in, I tell them each 5 amazing qualities that they each have. Now it could be, you know, you're brave and you're confident and you're smart and you're strong and you're beautiful. Every day it's something different. So they love that, first of all, because they have no idea what wonderful things they're gonna hear about themselves that day, but they love it. But I always end with the same thing, and I tell them every single night, you can be, do, and have anything you want in this world, as long as you work hard, believe in yourself, and are kind and compassionate towards yourself and other people. And they've known this and heard this every single day for years now, every single day that I'm home. And I'll tell you, when you see people believe in themselves and realize life's gonna happen, but the way that we look at change when those days come and they have that anchor, when those teams, that companies empower their teams, their leadership to look at life differently and say, you know what, it's gonna happen. But how do I look at it so we can embrace it, so that we can all align and cross the finish line together? That's when the magic happens. Now, one of my core values is gratitude. I have to tell you, I appreciate your time, your energy, and attention, and thank you so much from my heart to yours. Thank you.